So I love golf stories that really embrace the human condition. And today, my guest is a legend in the sport broadcasting space who has a new book that we're going to talk about today on the ModGolf YouTube channel. So today, my guest is Ann Liguori, who is the author. This is her second book of Life on the Green. And we're going to talk about this book today. 12 amazing stories from golf legends, 6 women, 6 men. We already talked about this a little bit on the ModGolf podcast, our long form audio conversation. But we're going to continue on here today on the podcast on the YouTube channel. So there she is. Ann, welcome back. Good to see you.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much.
You are welcome. And we're going to continue on the conversation that we had earlier. And we did a fun format. As I said, you've got 12 amazing stories here. I'm just going to read them off. Amy Alcott, Ben Crenshaw, Padraig Harrington, Bernard Longer, Nancy Lopez, Jack Nicklaus, Dottie Pepper, Gary Player, Renee Powell, Annika Sorenstam, Jan Stevenson, and Tom Watson. And what we did earlier, so that we get a little snippet of all these conversations, just a little tease, is I created a game show, and we're going to continue that. So you've got some points because you're doing pretty well. You've got 5 out of 7. So the game show we called Who Said That? Who said that is the quotes in the book, and I was a little bit tricky here because it wasn't necessarily the person that you interviewed in the 12 stories. It could have been someone in their lives that said that. So
Ah,
pretty
gotcha.
well. So we've got 5 questions left here, 5 quotes left. You actually went to the rules official because you're very competitive, and you did put it out there that you wanted a review, that you thought you should have got a point for the Jan Stevenson one there. So even though I think you're
Absolutely.
5 for 7 right now, that you think you should be 6. So what I'm going to do here is the next question I ask you, if you get this one,
Oh gosh, the pressure.
I'm going to give you not only 1 extra point. You know what? I'm going to give it back. I'm going to clean the slate. I'm going to give you a perfect record. That then you'll be 8 for 8 here. So if you get this one, away you go. Okay, deep breath. Are you ready for
Okay.
it?
It's
Here we
only that I
go.
wrote this book, right? I did all these interviews, but the themes are similar in many chapters. I mean, they all have their own messages, which is incredible that they all came up with their own, you know, dominant themes. But in the content of every chapter, there are a lot of similarities. So there you go. I just
All
put it
right.
out there.
I think you should be able to get this one here, but we'll see because you've got some of the really obscure ones, and one I thought you would get, you didn't quite. Okay, so here it is for all the marbles. Get you back to perfect score here. The quote is, "The athletic experiences of my youth, competing against the guys, helped prepare me for my career in sports broadcasting."
Oh, Dottie Pepper.
Ding, 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 ding. That is
Yay.
correct. There we go. You got it. Okay, you're back to 8 for 8 here. Good. Wow,
Yes.
you like the competition. We talked about that. I
I am
think
very
Jack and people
competitive.
talk about the
Yes.
competition. And you, that was a pressure moment here. So tell us about Dottie. Give us a little story with Dottie that,
Yeah.
that you have.
I saw Dottie at the Masters too. Obviously, a lot of the people who are in the book, 6 men and 6 women, legends, all Hall of Famers, many of them were at the Masters that was able to catch up with, which was just delightful, particularly talking to them after they were able to read the book, not just their chapters, but the chapters on all the other legends in the book. But, Dottie, she, boy, her chapter is about preparation as a golfer, as a junior golfer, a college golfer, and a pro golfer, and how that carries over to preparation as a broadcaster. And, for what, 2 or 4 hours on the weekend of airtime that she gets, she puts in at least 12 hours of prep time. And I can relate to that because I did on years ago for Hey Liguori, What's the Story, which was my show on WFAN, the first 25 years on FAN. Now I have 1 hour, which still takes a lot of my time, but it was 5 to 6 hours every weekend, Colin. And I would put in so much prep time. So it's all about preparation. And she said learning golf as a young person really helped her. You had to know what to wear. You had to look at the forecast. You had to be prepared for all kinds of weather changes. You know, what do you put in your bag? How do you dress? When are you going to eat? And time management was a huge lesson that she learned being a junior golfer. And also she told a great story when she was in college. Her roommate was a double major, and she was a music major and another she had another major, and her schedule was so intense and so complicated that apparently her roommate made all kinds of charts and graphs and just really was an expert at time management. And Dottie Pepper shared with me that now every time she writes a Christmas card, she sends her college roommate just a Christmas card thanking her every year for teaching her time management. So I thought that was a cute story. Not only did she learn time management from being a junior golfer, but she learned it in college from one of her former roommates. So really great getting to know Dottie Pepper. You know, she was very competitive as a player and very serious. And she talks a lot about balancing her life. And she told me that if there was anything she would have changed, she might have maybe taken a little more time off. You know, she did have some injuries, and maybe it would have helped her back a little bit, or and her
Mm,
shoulders. But she also, you know, said she probably would have, maybe she tried to balance. She would ski in the wintertime and she would golf in the rest of the year. But she kind of wished she, you know, would have done a little bit more, I think, in the balance department back when she was a junior.
right.
But look, she's such a success story and she's really good at what she does. So preparation is key.
Yeah, and someone that has managed to set themselves up for that next chapter in their life too. Because I'm sure like the stories and the interviews, people that are like household names in sports that for the last 25, 30 years in your career, you've covered it all. You covered it all. So I'm curious to hear on that note, if you talk to I don't know if we call it legacy, but I guess transition after they're out of the spotlight in the fame of the sport that they're playing. Sure, you've talked to so many athletes. That next transition that Dottie has managed to set up very nicely and move into that next part of her career. Others have definitely floundered and struggled to find that identity, to find that purpose, that sense of meaning in self. So, can you share some stories, not just in golf, but perhaps a story of someone that you've talked to that is successful or struggled and then came out the other side and found themselves in their the next chapter in their life?
Well, one thing I will point out about Dottie's story is, you know, I started in broadcasting before she did. She was a professional golfer, you know, when I started my broadcasting career. So it was really, I think, a lot more difficult in the 80s for women in sports who were pursuing a career in sports broadcasting. You know, then they started hiring women who were professional golfers. And so she made that transition pretty smooth. And she did, you know, she practiced a lot, and Judy Rankin was a big influence in Dottie Pepper's life and showed her the ropes, and she would call Judy to get advice. And Judy served as you know, her mentor, not only in golf but also in broadcasting. So yes, you're right, Dottie made that transition very smooth, and it was because of her knowledge and because she was actually a professional golfer. And you have to know when not to talk, you know, to be a sideline reporter for these sports broadcasters out there, and to do the golf on course analyst job. You have to really, you only have so much time, and you have to, it's hard. It's a very difficult job because you only have so much time you have to say a lot in as few words as possible, if that
Mm,
makes sense. So anyway, I just thought that was all fascinating material since, you know, I'm in broadcasting as well. So, but other personalities, I think the book teaches us a lot about what makes their hunger,
mm,
what makes them so ambitious. For instance, Bernard Longer talks about how poor he was as a child. I mean, he shared a lot of personal material in his chapter, and his is about faith.
yes.
He's a man of faith, and he shares a lot about how he got his start in golf. And, you know, he started to caddy just to make a couple coins. His brother introduced him to, you know, some people at a local golf course, and he was really good at reading the greens. It was a natural talent for Bernard Longer. And he said he'd go, you know, the better at reading greens he was, the more coins he would bring home. And he'd
Right.
go help his mother, who was a waitress, and the more friendly he was to the customers, the more tip money he made. So he learned very quickly how to be good at what he did. And, then he got a sponsor and turned pro very early, and he used his incredible natural talent. And now the winningest golfer on the PGA Tour champions. It's incredible. But so I think the book, you'll learn a lot about what makes these legends good, and not only good but great and successful, and why they're still all these years later motivated to succeed. Gary Player is another example. He was very poor when he was a young man. He used to cry himself to sleep, he said. His mother died when he was very young. His father worked in the coal mines. He was home by himself most of the time. And what makes him so driven to pursue his passion at 88 years of age? So it really, you can figure out a lot about their success stories by hearing a lot about their early days. And that to me is just fascinating.
Yeah, and all 12 stories, all of them, that overarching thread that kind of runs through it is none of them came from privilege. None of them came from kind of money and wealth. And some were middle class, some were dirt poor, as you had mentioned. So they had that fire within them. And it seems every single one of them, they talked about it, but even with their parents, they didn't push them. They weren't those sports parents and the kids would get burned out. That they were the ones that were motivated, and they were the ones that really pushed themselves. And
That's
that's
right.
all 12 of them, which is
You
amazing.
have to be self-motivation. I mean, you can't, as much talent as people have, if you don't want it yourself and have the mental focus and discipline, then you can only, your talent will only take you so far, but you have to really have the hunger, the determination, the focus, the work ethic. There's so many great stories. I mean, Annika tells a great story about being on the range when she was a teenager in Sweden, and it started pouring out, and she called her father, come pick me up. And he came to pick her up. And as they were leaving, they passed all these other kids who were still out there on the range getting pelted by raindrops. And her father leaned over to her and said, Annika, there are no shortcuts to success. And she said, wow, those words really cut me. She said they were just so harsh and made me feel so uncomfortable, but she never forgot that. And of course, all those victories later, Annika Sorenstam, that she did not have any shortcuts to success. She worked her butt off and continues to enjoy such a great life now. But, there's so many lessons in the book, Colin, for everybody. Whether you're a
Yeah.
diehard golfer, you'll learn a lot of golf history. And I learned a lot that I never knew about these personalities. And I've been covering golf for decades. Or if you're a casual golfer or not even a golfer at all, I think these stories will resonate, and the universal themes are very uplifting.
I agree. Well, you know what? You were 8 for 8 in our game show here. So I gave you the extra one here. But what you've just done here by talking about Annika's story, I thought I was going to trip you up with this one. There is my next one.
No shortcuts to success. See that? Do I get like bonus
And
points for that?
well, you do, because that's actually her dad. And I was not
Yes.
going to trip you up. I thought you were going to say it was Annika. So you told the story, and I already had it in my hand here. Not a
There
word of
you
a
go.
lie. There we go. So you know what? That's 9 for 9. And what I'm going to do, what's the equivalent of? Basically, you get a a redo, or if you get one wrong, I'll actually give it to you. So you've always got
Oh,
like
we're
like
gonna keep
a
going. Okay.
bonus. You got, what do I have here? I've got 1, 2, 3 left here, because I don't want to take up too much of your time here, because I know
Okay.
we've spent some great time together already on the audio podcast here. But okay, you're 9 for 9, and you also get a get out of jail free card, or whatever we want to call it here, on our game show of Who Said That? Okay, the next one. Here we go. I have been underestimated all my life, which I like because I love to prove people wrong.
Padre Carrington.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, you got it.
That chapter, Colin, was unbelievable. Padre revealed to me that not only does he have nerves when he goes to the first tee, he is fearful. He has fear, FEAR. And I just was just so surprised when he revealed that to me. And he talks about, embracing that fear. And amateurs,
Mm.
can't understand what that fear is all about. But a pro, I mean, a three-time major champion, he's winning tournaments both on the PGA Tour and the PGA Tour champions. He has fear every time he tees it up. That's quite the revelation from Padraig Harrington. Love that chapter. Love
Yeah.
the fact that Padraig is so honest.
And what was his Jedi mind trick that if he was in the lead, what did he convince himself mentally when he was out there
Right.
to play?
Right. I mean, he just, everybody has their own strategy and their own comfort zone. And if he was not good at closing out a win, if he was ahead, he would have to kind of do some reverse psychology and pretend like he was behind to play his best, right? Which I think a lot of people do. I mean, if he thought maybe it would affect his aggressiveness, maybe he wouldn't go for it. I mean, if he's a couple of shots ahead, maybe he'd play too tentative and let
Right.
these other guys catch up, right? So he always plays like he's at least one shot behind, which I
love
think
that.
it's brilliant.
See, I never have to worry about that with my game, even if I'm playing, with someone that has to give me strokes. I'm always playing from behind, so I never get out of that mindset. So it works for me too.
There you
Okay,
go.
two more here. Here we go. This one. If you want to have true happiness, you need to have love in your heart.
Gary Player.
There we go. See, I thought I was going to trick you there because I said I was going to have. I had 13 questions, so there was one person that had 2 quotes here, and you nailed it. Absolutely.
Gary is full of wisdom. He's an international treasure, 88 years young. I'm going to have him on my Talking Golf show this Sunday on WFAN, 8 to 9 Eastern. I just love that guy. He has so much wisdom. He's traveled the world and won more international tournaments than any other golfer. And he has a lot to share. And he's very open to sharing it. So can't wait to talk to. I always love talking to Gary Player.
Love it. Okay, last one here. You're 12 for 12. No pressure. Take a deep breath. Here we go. The quote is, I think relationships are one of the most important things in life. It's very fulfilling when you have great relationships with your family and friends.
Wow. Now that could be
a little tip here. It's the one person so far you haven't named.
Really?
I know we've been going for an hour and a half here.
I know. Who haven't I named? Did I not name? Say it again. It's about relationships. Who have I not named?
I think relationships are one of the most important things in life. It's very fulfilling when you have great relationships with your family and friends.
Who haven't I named? We named Amy. We named Annika, Renee, Nancy, Dottie, Amy Alcott. So it has to be a guy.
Yep.
We named Jack. We named Gary. We named Padraig. We named Ben, right? We did Ben Crenshaw.
We did.
Who else did we name? Tom Watson. Is it Tom? No, wait. Say it one more time. The quote.
I'm making put my glasses back on, aren't you? All right, here we go. Last time. I think relationships are one of the most important things in life. It is very fulfilling when you have great relationships with your family and friends.
That has to be Ben Crenshaw. Did I say Ben Crenshaw?
You already had before. It's
all right. Tom Watson.
Well, for what it's worth here, you're going to get 13 out of 13 anyway because you did get the bonus point before there. So you had actually won. You had a mulligan. Russ, we're going to call it. You actually had a mulligan.
Wait a second. Is that? We didn't mention Longer. Bernard Longer. Yeah. It's Bernard Longer. I can't see it. Yeah. Yeah, Bernard Longer. That's
there we go.
Right. There you go. It's
you are 14
because I talked to because I just told that Bernard Longer story. I forgot that we didn't do a quote from him for the game show. Bernard Longer for sure.
You got the bonus point there. Wow. So this has been fun. You nailed the show. 14 out of 13. You get an A+++ on this.
Well, there are 400 pages in this book. So I mean,
good job.
The fact that I can remember.
It is amazing, the book. So once again, with Life on the Green, Legends and Wisdom from Legends in Golf. Did I say think I got that right. Lessons and Wisdom from Legends of Golf. There we go. So I will keep or put in the show notes below here the link for Amazon, so people want to order the book. Why don't you let people know here where they can find out more about you, maybe join in and listen to your radio show, and
Sure.
also where they can find the book.
Sure. Well, you can find me on social media. Instagram is the Ann Liguori, ANNLIGUORI. Facebook's Ann Liguori, LinkedIn Ann Liguori. What else? Twitter Ann Liguori, and then they can go to Amazon and just put in Life on the Green and my name, and the link will come up, and just order it. You can get, I'm sure if you order it today, they're so quick, you'll get it within a day or two, right? And you can always reach out to me, send me a copy of the book. I'm happy to sign it and send it back to you. You can reach out to me, you can DM me, or however you want to reach me on social media. And my website is annliguori.com.
There we
So there's
go.
all kinds of ways to find me.
There
So
we go.
enjoy
Like I,
the book. I'm so happy to talk about it. The game show was fun, and I really think there's something in it for everybody. It's very uplifting and very positive, and we need that now.
it really is. There is that thread that runs through it of positivity, hope, and joy, resilience, and there's just some amazing human beings that you've had the chance to see. There it is.
There it is.
You know what? I do have to
We
ask you
didn't
one
even
more.
talk about Jim Nance. He wrote the
We didn't.
forward.
Well, actually,
Amazing.
why don't we finish up? I got two things. Let's talk about Jim. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Jim, because he wrote the foreword for this, and he is another absolute legend, an icon. So tell us about your relationship with Jim, and then I've got one last question for you before we leave you.
Sure. I mean, Jim, I went back, my first job out of college was at CBS Sports once I got through the International Radio and TV Society Fellowship. And I just met Jim at CBS Sports, and I covered all sports. So I knew him from football as well as golf. And we became very good friends. And he's just such a generous, wonderful guy. So I can't thank him enough. The forward is, I think, about 3 pages. So he really put his heart and soul into writing this forward. Such a lovely forward. I can't, he's just an incredible guy. And he's a legend himself. So he belongs right here on this book.
Amazing. Amazing. So, hey, my last question for you. As an entrepreneur, you're so inspiring. The things that you've done, really doing things people, not only just women, but people weren't doing a couple of decades ago in the sport broadcasting space, to create their own independent content, which you still own. What you did with the Golf Channel, I believe it was called Conversations with Ann Liguori, your show there, where
Right.
you had on Played a Round of Golf with celebrities. Like the A-listers you've had on is amazing. So my last question for you here, and maybe the answer is nobody, but is there one person out there that you have yet to interview that's on your list at the very, very top? One person.
This is gonna sound kind of crazy, but I would like to interview Tom Brady.
Ah,
I just don't think the definitive interview with Tom Brady has been done. I just don't think I've seen anything in depth with him, and maybe it's just, because that's the way he wants it. I just think there's a lot more to Tom Brady. I'd love to just kind of get inside his head and how he approaches the game psychologically, and spiritually and physically, and what makes him tick. I just don't think we've seen that definitive interview on Tom Brady, and I'd like to do it. And he's a golfer as well. So
yeah.
you mentioned the show on the Golf Channel. I was the first woman to host a primetime show on the Golf Channel. It aired the first Wednesday that the Golf Channel was on the air, and that show is called Conversations with Ann Liguori. And I interviewed all these celebrities who had a passion for golf, and just the way that show came about is really amazing. And I owe all the credit to Michael Whalen, who was an executive in programming with the Golf Channel in the early days. And my heart goes out to Michael Whalen and sending prayers, because he's struggling with cancer right now. But in 5 minutes, we came up with the concept of that show. And the Golf Channel wasn't even on the air yet. And just all the stories about getting booking the guests for the show, and the very first guest was Sylvester Stallone, and how that almost didn't happen after my whole crew was set up. I mean, there's just so many great stories that will have to go in the next book.
I was going to say the next book, and the next time I have you on the ModGolf podcast, we'll just have to talk about all of the celebrities that you had on the Golf Channel back in the day.
Well, my first book, Colin, was A Passion for Golf, Celebrity Musings About the Game.
Right, right.
And it's still, that's still available. You can get that on Amazon as well. And those are the stories behind the stories of the show on the Golf Channel that I did, Conversations with Ann Liguori. And it tells a lot of fun stories about those personalities that love golf, who were Hollywood stars, music stars, everybody from Matthew McConaughey to Celine Dion, Samuel L. Jackson, um, Sylvester Stallone, Kevin Costner, Joe Pesci. I booked all those guests myself. So
Amazing.
there's so many more stories. So hopefully
I
on another podcast.
I love your hustle for someone that grew up in small town Ohio, where the journey you've been on and where you are in life. It's amazing, and it's such an engaging story. And I just want to thank you again for your time, for sharing what's going on with Life on the Green, this amazing book that I thank you for sending. And I want to thank you again for spending the time to join me today on the ModGolf YouTube channel.
My pleasure. Had a good time and glad I hit the home run in the game show.
You did.
Or
All
hit that
right.
perfect 9-iron.
Nailed it. Stuck it.
Nailed
All
it.
right. You take
Thank
care.
you.